Okay, thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. It's nice to visit Kuala Lumpur. I've been here now for the 5th time, and also in previous conferences as well. Now, in order for starting a presentation, it's always difficult to be the last speaker of the day. We usually call this the graveyard shift. So being in the graveyard shift, one of the best ways to get attention from the people out there is maybe by starting with a short video. So let me sort of playing maybe a little short introduction video to try to position this. My presentation is actually going to focus on wireless security. As you know, many organizations today are looking at deploying wireless networks. And as such, there's a lot of influence that needs to be put in place to sensitize the risks associated with deploying security not the proper way. How would you feel if you're about to deploy a new security solution without the proper instruction or without following the proper guidelines? It might be at a few thousand feet and not quite understanding how to drive the plane. Well, back to a little bit more serious topic. Obviously, one of the reasons why wireless security is becoming extremely important, one of the important factors is the boundaries of our organizations are coming down. And our customers, our clients, and even the employees within the organization are asking for a more flexible way to access the information. As such, you have to provide, amongst other things, wireless access to information. The important thing is how to do it in the safe and proper way. Now, obviously, there's many types of wireless technologies, from the mobile that you may be using to satellite system, to GSM or any other systems in between. And all of these systems obviously have their own security issues associated with them. Now, on the terms of wireless technology, obviously there's many types and many options. From 802.11a, B, G, and many variations in between. And all of them have got, obviously, their pros, cons, and advantages. And obviously, when people looking at deploying wireless technology, things like security as well as performance is extremely important. So certain protocols and options offer much greater protection as well as performance than others, as well as the access radius. Now, originally, when we started in wireless technology, we were talking about fairly short distances. We're talking about 100 feet, 100 meters. But since then, with Wi-Fi and WiMAX, this has been extended in some cases up to 45 kilometers or even higher. Now, when we're looking at 802.11, especially the B variation is probably the most popular in use today. It is what is being actually used here. It operates on a DSS spread spectrum frequency and operates on a 2.4 gigahertz frequency. On this type of configuration, you normally have about 100 meters of access. But however, the access from the particular laptop is limited at that, but with the right and correct amount of antennas, you can actually extend that to much higher distances. What that really means is that you're able to pick up signals well beyond the walls of the organization that you're trying to deploy. Besides the B variation, there's many other variations in North America, more specifically. 802.11a tends to be more popular, although the military does not like the propagation of this particular frequency because they tend to use it for their own systems. And more recently, we have seen the introduction of G, which allows a much higher bandwidth as well. Especially in the Asia-Pacific area, is quite high in use as well. There's other less popular variations that have existed in between to try to increase the quality of service, as well as to try to increase basically the performance as well as the security. Now, obviously, the typical configuration when we're looking at accessing a wireless network, we have on one side the corporate network, which is covered by wires, and on its edge we can have what we call or refer to as access points. Access points can be implemented via hardware, or they can be implemented via software through a traditional workstation. What it really means is that a workstation with a wireless card can have more than one role at the same time. Now, besides the traditional approach to wireless networks, you have also a peer-to-peer type operation. Now, this peer-to-peer operation allows you to transfer files against networks or computers that are in proximity of each other. One has to keep in mind that because these options are available, it means that it increases much substantially the risk to today's organizations. Now, to compound the effect of these is the fact that most of the laptops that are actually shipping today are what we call Centrino type or Centrino enabled. So the wireless cards are actually included in these. That means you have much higher risk to the organization as well. Other organizations have also looked at using wireless security to actually link the buildings. Now, in the original days, people were looking at things like laser technology, which is quite expensive. But nowadays, with WiMAX type capabilities, it is very inexpensive to actually link two buildings together. And this can be done up to about 45 kilometers with the right conditions and the right antennas. So you have basically a variation of the two to be able to integrate your own corporate networks. Now, this is done using what's called a basic service set, and this defines all the workstations that are cooperating together under a common network. Now, you have to understand that in this environment, there's really always two types of data that is being transmitted. There's the data that you use within your corporate environment, as well as the control data, and helps you authenticate yourself to the infrastructure. In terms of security perspective, both of them are of concern when we're trying to protect the networks. On one side, you want to make sure that no rough access points are introduced in the network, and on the other side, you want to make sure that any data that is transmitted is also protected from privacy as well. Obviously, there's various modes and options when you're about to associate yourself. Typically, the access point can send a beacon, which basically is trying to identify itself. At that stage, you tend to use what's called the SSID, which allows you to make sure that you're associating yourself with the correct access point. Now, obviously, there's closed mode as well, in which the access point is obviously not broadcasting any SSID, and at that stage, it is the client workstation or the laptop or the remote desktop that is actually requesting an association. Once the appropriate validation has been performed, then the actual data will start. Now, most original implementations of the 802.11 were in clear text. People quickly realized the issues associated with it, and web came into usage. Web allowed you the capability of using traditional encryption mechanisms to encrypt the contents of the data. However, in these implementations as well, some issues were quickly found out. So the web keys could easily be cracked by listening to a certain amount of traffic, because there is a pattern associated with the generation of these keys, whether they happen to be, in most cases, static rather than dynamic. That means that in security terms, once you have the key, it's what we call game over. That means no matter how strong the encryption is, it allows you to automatically decrypt the keys. Now, in the original implementations for attacking this infrastructure, you had to run some